I knew I wanted to travel. A friend of mine said, hey, I'm going on an around the world trip. So I kind of took this idea. I was in the midst of writing poetry and listening to people's stories. And I was like, oh, I'm going to call it the Poetic Justice World Tour. I'm going to go to 5 different continents. I'm going to volunteer at schools, orphanages, and community centers. And I'm going to create poetry with people. The lens was really giving people voice that don't necessarily have voice, and sort of turn the meaning of poetic justice to poetry as a means to bring justice. It was really about seeing people and allowing people to see me. I think art has the ability to help us find our voice, but also help us change the story in a really physical way. Traveling alone as a woman was its own unique experience. To know that to have a female anatomy is to be open and vulnerable to both physical and sexual abuse. And almost everywhere I went, that was really present. I got up every morning, and that, being a woman traveling alone, was something I could never put down. And then being a black woman has its own other interesting challenges. Except in like Kenya and South Africa, I was the oddball almost everywhere. It was like being a walking spectacle because everybody wanted a picture of me. Or wanted to touch my hair. Like, I could never get sort of out of my skin, so to speak, because it was always very present. I guess I just learned how fragile I am as a human being, that in an instant, like, I don't really have much control. I came back with, like, life is really about love and relationships. If you don't have love and relationships, then you're not really living. How many people do you know that you cross paths with every day in your life, but you don't actually really know them? There's this depth and beauty in one another that we haven't explored, and I think that we sort of miss that in our culture. And so I think that the act of sitting with people, sitting at their table, making space for people to tell their story on their own particular terms. And so can you be a seer, and can you allow yourself to be truly seen? You're reflecting their personhood back to them, and it seems like they always leave with a greater sense of dignity because I've just reflected humanity back to them. The things that came to my mind from my own experience is that we would see each other like across race and difference. I think lots of things can be changed with laws and activism and systems and structures that need to be changed, and that's absolutely necessary. But a lot of it is like changing the hearts and minds of people, and that only get changed through relationships, through sharing, through spaces where you can get to know the other, right? So I spent 8 months as the other every single day, every minute of the day. And it was very uncomfortable at times. So I had to get out of myself and I had to learn other people's stories, I had to learn their country, I had to learn their customs, and try not to put on my judgmental eye, but just experience those things. And so I would say, like, you need to get outside. If everybody in your circle looks like you, is the same socioeconomic status as you, you need to get out of that. Spend some time as the other, and I think that it'll absolutely change your perspective. Self-awareness is sort of understanding where your prejudice is, where your bias is, because it's not really if you're racist or if you're prejudiced, it's just really how. So I wish in America we would just admit that. So I think praying for us not to be defensive about that, because if we don't know that we are, we're still in denial, then how can we ever move forward as a country?